Transmissions open, everybody. Hello. I should have done the sound effect. You know, that's the little whistle I was doing from Star Trek, The Next Generation, Star Trek. They do it in Navy boats, a little whistle that goes,
Yes, but when you first did that, I thought
Does it sound like a cat?
No, I thought you were doing that Western song that's like, do-do-do-do-do, wah, wah.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were doing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what that song is called.
It has an Italian name. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Jason Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson.
Welcome back to the podcast where we take one character or construct and tell you everything about it in a little bit less than an hour. But we're not doing that this week because this is the second Geek History Lesson mailbag episode.
Well, we already did it this week. We already did a regular episode this week. This is the mailbag episode.
Yeah.
You said we're not doing it this week. We already did it this week.
Oh, well, we're not doing that this episode.
That's right.
My bad. Excuse me. So this is going to be a little bit looser, a little bit goosier, a little bit juicier, a little bit more
Yeah.
Fun fact, I have a story about that. Can I tell you this story right now?
Please, yeah.
So we're doing this, everybody, just to let you know, to like give you a little bit more content because we know the world's a little crazy right now and the world's almost on lockdown, and we want to give you a little bit more content and be a little bit more personal. So I don't know how many people know this, but my dad was a truck driver for a good length of years. I don't know exactly how long, but for most of my young childhood, he was a truck driver.
Sure.
And every once in a while, if the trip was small enough, we would get to go with him. And so one of the trips I went with him, I believe he was hauling soybeans to Kansas City.
Sure.
So I'd gotten Kansas City. And the interesting thing is that he would always drive up there late so that he could be there first thing in the morning. And what trucks would do, and we would do this because he had a sleeper cab truck, is that you'd get there at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then we'd go back and sleep. And then we'd wake up at 7 a.m. so we could, unload and then come back.
Sure.
And there would always be a line of trucks. And one of the funnest thing is we would be listening to his, I don't know the name of this trucker radio, the radio, the CB radio.
Yeah, CB radio, yep.
There's all these stations.
Breaker.
Yeah, you hear these people. My dad's call sign was Wild Bill.
That's cute.
Yeah, and I can remember, because my dad's name is Bill.
Yes.
And I can remember on one of these trips, and I was pretty young. I was under 10, but I had seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly by this point. And I remember on one of the frequencies, some person was broadcasting, wah, 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 wah. And we would keep flipping by, but it's like radio stations. And my dad would keep like flipping through it just to see if he knew anybody.
Yeah.
And he'd keep, as he came around the bend, he'd go, wah, 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 wah. And I always was like, why is somebody playing music on the CB radio?
I mean, why
That
not?
is still in my brain. That happened like probably 20 years ago.
That's really funny.
Yep.
Jason had the kind of childhood where he was allowed to watch all the kinds of movies with all the ratings. And I had the kind of childhood where I was sheltered and was not.
Yeah, but that's a memory that's in my head. So there you go.
That's cute.
So again, we asked for your questions on Patreon, our Patreon over at patreon.com/Jawin, Jawin. By the way, fun fact, Ashley and I have been sharing a lot of our comics for free.
Every Wednesday we plan stuff in advance, folks. For the last 3 Wednesdays.
You should give Jupiter Jet 1 to them.
Okay. We have been giving out free comic content. Some of the upcoming stuff is stuff that nobody in the world has seen before.
Oh, that's right.
It's like exclusive secret sneak peek stuff. So if you're looking for free comics, we got them on Patreon.
So again, this is... we need to make a note, Ashley, because I have no idea what to call these episodes. Whether you could just call them mailbag with mailbag theme with or mailbag. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that. But anyways, we're doing this because we want to give you a little bit extra. And if these work out and you guys like these, then we might
do more.
We might do more of them. So let's go to the first question here, Ashley. Let's head it off.
This is from Balui, and of course we are starting with our patrons, who asks if you remember what was your first comic book that you read.
I don't know if I know the one that I first read, but I know the one that I first bought.
Go for that.
It was Batman 466. It's the one I've talked about several times where I still own it. Batman tied to the bottom of a rocket on the cover, and I had to figure out why. And Tim Drake's in it. It's one of his very first issues.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really good.
I definitely don't know because I read a lot of the French comics growing up. We had them in our home.
So for you, it could be Tintin.
It's probably either Tintin or Asterix et Obelix. Probably the creator of Asterix just passed away a couple weeks ago. Iconic French creator Hergé, who created Tintin, is super dead. or an Archie comic. Like I have a lot of older cousins. I have a big French Catholic family. I inherited a lot of old Archie digests from some of my older cousins. So it could have been one of those.
Those Archie digests are great.
And they still publish them.
Yeah, they still do.
I think the biggest tragedy of the comic book industry is that those digests are not in grocery stores anymore. Like I used to beg, and my parents were always like, "Fine, because you're reading." And I would read them until they fell apart, just over and over and over.
I remember in my grocery stores there were Archie digests, there were Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle digests because Turtles was published by Archie.
Yep.
There was also Sonic the Hedgehog digest.
There were.
Yeah, I bought a lot of the Turtles ones. I loved them.
Every once in a while, you'd get a Sabrina.
Yep. Yes,
and that for me was like
or a Jughead.
gold.
Every once in a while you get a Jughead.
Yeah. Because I love Sabrina so much.
Yeah, no, those should still be published.
Yes, and they are. They're just not as easily accessible as they
100%.
used to be, and I think that's tragic. So I don't remember. I'm sorry, but the first comic that I ever pulled out of a box and picked out by myself was the New Teen Titans 39. Which the white cover where they're walking away and Dick is like, I'm not going to be Robin anymore. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, that blew my childhood.
You should share that on social media.
I've shared that many times.
Do it again
on social media. Okay, I will. I'll share both.
The next question comes from another patron, Anthony Torres, who says, how much of your writing do you tailor to what you think readers would enjoy versus writing characters and stories for yourself and letting reader responses fall where they may? Anthony, I'm going to give you a very disappointing answer for this question. I don't care what my readers think about my stories.
I was going to say none.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean that as a callous answer, but I think if you are writing a story that completely please an audience, it will always be a bad story. I write what characters and stories I find most interesting, because if it's interesting enough for me, that will translate into the script and the readers will get that. And at that point, like, look, no matter what you write, some people are going to like it. Some people are going to hate it. There's nothing you can change about that. Yeah. There's absolutely nothing you can change about it. I would actually argue that we just witnessed a very big budget version of a studio taking a $300 million movie and literally writing it for let me guess which one. What they thought the audience would love, and it blew up in their faces.
Yeah.
What movie do you think I'm talking about?
Rise of Skywalker.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think, and I haven't talked about this online. I did not enjoy that movie.
I didn't see it.
And I think from every turn, to me, that movie reads as Disney executives trying to predict what they think the audience would like.
Now, Anthony, we do consider things, especially when we're writing Jupiter Jet, that Jupiter Jet is an all ages book, even more than Science was. Science skewed a little bit older. So we do try to consider things like we can't go too scary. We do try to respect the younger audience members that we have, but also kids are smart kids are adept.
The closest I ever come to considering the reader response is thinking about, if I kill this character, is it too soon? Is it too early? Like, if I was a reader reading this and this character like died off, or this horrible thing happens to this character, or this very good thing happens to this character, what do I think the audience would think about that? Like, in just terms of like how if I was reading it. But that's about as close as I ever get, because again, I think that's a dangerous road. And Anthony, I don't know if you're a writer or not, but if you are, I would advise you to get off that road real quick and just write the story that you want to see. That's the story that is going to resonate the most.
But I will say that we have been very fortunate, and all of the response to our writing has been pretty positive. So thank you to everyone who goes with us on this journey. Because we're in charge of the journey.
And again, if you haven't checked out any of our books, they're all available at jasoninman.com/store. Go check them out.
Or if you're a patron, we'll give you some of them for free.
Okay, so the next question is our best question of this episode. Comes from Lee Carter, who asks, and Lee Carter is going to be sent all of our books that we were just talking about.
He's going to Lee.
Digital.
Lee, I'm listening to me.
Lee Carter.
Lee, send me an email, geekhistorylisson@gmail.com. Tell me which PDF you want. I will send it back.
All right, we give them all. He gets them all.
Well, we told them that they were going to get one, and they got to pick one.
I didn't know that.
Yep. We agreed on that.
Well, Lee gets them all because he's special.
Okay. I'm sure Lee, as a patron, has several of them.
I actually think this is a great question, Lee. I think this is really good, and I think this might lead to our longest discussion. So here you go.
Okay, let's see.
Lee Carter asks, Why do you think Harley Quinn has become one of the most recognizable DC characters and a fan favorite, while other characters who have been around for double the amount of time aren't given the same amount of spotlight? Now, I think this is a very interesting question because I don't quite know the answer to this, and I think there are several theories that could fit. Actually, I would love to hear your response as the woman of the podcast.
This is a hard question because I don't care for Harley Quinn.
Okay. Not saying you're wrong.
No, that's just my opinion. I'm
That's
not
fine.
saying, look, Harley Quinn's a very popular character.
I will say she's not a favorite of mine, but I do like the character.
I liked Harley Quinn a lot, and I made the argument that she was my favorite, that she was the best Batman villain before the New 52.
Oh, that's true.
And I know that a lot of people really like the changes that were made to that character.
Biker Harley.
The changes that were made to that character were made by a creative team that I respect,
I think they're really good.
that I like as humans and as creators. I just don't care for what it did for the character. I think people like Harley Quinn because Harley Quinn is pop rocks and bubble gum and cotton candy. Harley Quinn is beautiful, bright, sugary fluff with no substance, who's not challenging and not demanding. Harley Quinn is nothing but fun and nonsense. And people don't like... And so that's easier to absorb than if you're reading a Superman story where he's trying to teach you a morality about dealing with human beings. When you're reading a Wonder Woman story that's trying to deconstruct an ancient Greek myth.
Or I'm going to argue this, or you're trying to tell it, because I'm thinking about a character that is about the same amount of time. Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle, when you're dealing with El Paso and the Mexican border.
And immigration,
Yep.
yeah. So I think Harley's just so easy.
That's fair.
And sometimes that's good, right? Like, look, I watch reality television. Reality television has very little intellectual value, but I watch it because it's not challenging and it's familiar, and for me, it's fun. And I think and honestly, because Harley Quinn is a great look. Even if you don't like her costume, like there are versions of the costume I like better than others, Harley Quinn always looks awesome, which is why every girl and some guys like to cosplay her.
Yeah.
That's my easy answer. Of course, we can deconstruct all kinds of things. But that's my
I have
quick
two
answer.
theories.
And because she's a Joker derivative.
Well, you just nailed my number one theory.
Sorry.
She's girl Joker.
Yeah.
Joker is super popular.
Yeah.
It's the reason why Joker, every time we make a Batman trilogy, we always bring back the Joker.
Yeah.
The Joker is probably the most popular comic book villain of all time.
Yeah.
And Paul Dini, when he created Harley Quinn, who was always a background character until they named her. But anyways, she has become girl Joker. So like, how do we make the Joker even more popular? Please don't be offended. Give her boobs.
Well, and there's always
him
been,
boobs,
there's always been, even from Mad Love, Harley Quinn has always been a sexualized character. We see her in a teddy, in lingerie. And I'm going to try to say this in the nicest, most family-friendly way possible.
Okay.
That appeals to the straight identifying male audience, which is a huge part of comics.
My other second theory is I think you nailed it with the New 52 run. And I'm fine with saying the creators because Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner did a very long run on Harley Quinn. They were the ones that sort of it's the best description I have is roller derby Harley.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
She's like sort of wearing roller derby.
Absolutely.
It's almost the look you see in the Suicide Squad movie, but not quite. It's
actually way better.
It's a better version of that.
Yeah.
But that was the first time you saw like Harley in ponytails. And I'm going to say that they did something very smart. They made Harley Quinn in that run the Deadpool of the DC universe.
Yes, and you listen to our Deadpool episode, so you know where Jason and I compare the Deadpool.
But to be honest with you, I think until that run, nobody had considered Harley as this completely independent kind of like goofball character. Yeah, and as we saw,
up to that point, what do you have the Carl Kessel run, which is epic, but
which is great.
That's kind of her own solo adventure.
Exactly, but like I think that's the run. Like I think Jimmy and Amanda are 100% responsible.
They are
for this.
And look, that book is incredibly successful. They made a lot of money. They're both wonderful.
They're great people.
But I don't care for it.
But there's some theories. All right, let's go to this question from Shane Teffenbach on Facebook, who said, what non-DC or Marvel Grant Morrison story is your favorite? Mine is 18 Days.
Ooh.
It's funny, mine was a Vertigo book, so I actually have to look up a new one. I'm sorry. I was going to say, like, right out the gate for me, my favorite, like, non-superhero Grant Morrison story is We Three.
The animal?
Yeah, but that's a Vertigo story.
So I almost read that book once, and somebody said, Ashley, I know you. Do not read this book.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
You will bawl your eyes out, Ashley. Yes, you would totally bawl your eyes out. But you know what I'm going to say? You know what book I really liked and they just made it a television show? Happy.
Oh, yes.
The Happy, the story about the hitman who sees, the happy little blue donkey creature fairy thing that talks to him.
In December, I read this for the first time, and I think the mythology in it is so good. I think Klaus or Claus, if you will, which is his Santa Claus myth drawn by Dan Mora, I think it's a boom book, does not get its due for what a great story that is.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Cool. Let's take the next question, Ashley.
Lucas Blanco asks, do you think the older animated series still hold up today? Oh boy, do I have opinions. I.e. X-Men, Batman, Hulk, Fantastic Four, etc. Well, let's address these four right here.
Yeah. Jason,
does X-Men the animated series hold up?
No.
Does Batman the animated series hold up?
Yes.
Does I'm assuming this is the 60s Hulk?
No. There's a 90s Hulk.
The 90s Hulk series hold up?
No.
Does the Fantastic Four hold up?
No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
blanket statement. Marvel cartoons don't hold up and DC ones do. Blanket statement. Obviously, there's exceptions.
There is exceptions. And the exception to that rule is Spider-Man the animated series. Spider-Man the animated series from the 90s is the weird beast that sort of...
No. Beast is an X-Men.
No. Is the weird beast that halfway holds up and halfway doesn't, because there are, in fact, I've seen a couple of them on Disney Plus. There are a couple of those episodes that are just so good and they just they work. But yes, there is something about the Paul Dini, Alan Burnett, Bruce Timm
universe, yeah.
Superman the animated series, Justice League, Batman animated series, Batman Beyond.
What about the Zeta Project, Jason?
I can't say I've ever watched that one, so I don't know. But most of those, if it's the Tim Dini Burnett verse, it completely holds up.
I will blanket agree with that. I have a real soft spot for X-Men Evolution. It's my favorite X-Men series. And I think that show holds up in piecemeal.
Yeah.
I think some episodes of it really hold up. But there are DC series that hold up way less well that came later.
Yeah.
Than some of this Dini Tim Burnett.
I will just throw out there, Ashley and I just recently rewatched one of the Fantastic Four episodes on Disney Plus because I was like, oh, let's give this a try.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be the greatest episode of it all. And it felt like it was made in the 1970s.
It was so bad.
And it's from 1995.
A non-comic book show that is kind of a peer of this is Gargoyles, which I did not watch and had never heard of when it came out.
Yes, and I have. And I've been introducing Ashley to it.
We've been watching it on Disney Plus.
Oh, it totally holds up.
That show is awesome.
Yep. Gargoyles,
very upsetting fan art. Don't Google it.
Oh,
but
no.
Great television show.
But the way, the storytelling and the characters and the plot of Disney's Gargoyles literally feels like it was made last year.
But I will say, if you do have love for any of those old Marvel shows, or even some of the DC shows that came later, the Spectacular Spider-Man animated show is freaking fantastic. If you love them, you can get through a lot of the nonsense.
Yeah, who cares, man? It's a cartoon.
But broad strokes, most of the Marvel ones don't hold up as well, unfortunately. And I'm sure someone's going to fight with me on Twitter over that.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from Elliot Troy. Elliot asks, in honor of Strange Adventures #1, which character do you think would profit from a Tom King, Mitch Gerads type revamping, far and away minus Alan Scott Green Lantern?
It's a great choice.
I would also ask Elliot, if you've never checked out Earth 2, the series, Alan Scott's really cool in that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a totally different Alan Scott.
It's not quite the same as
basically. He's really. I know what he's asking, but I'm just saying, if you're an Alan Scott fan, that's a great run to check out.
Well, let's throw it out there in case anybody. What Strange Adventures, and they did this on Mr. Miracle as well, is sort of telling an adult version, a sort of contemporary version story with a kind of weirdo character. Alan Scott Green Lantern is a great choice. Fun fact: we're working on an Adam Strange episode right now,
which might or might not feature some of the people mentioned in this question.
It might or might not.
We'll see.
We're working on that. This is a tough question for me.
Well, it is, because I know Jason and I have discussed this personally. There are characters that we would like to do something like this for. And I don't know if I want to put those into the hopper.
I just don't. It's tough because it's a very specific style, and I don't think it works with everybody.
No, I would agree with that. Like, I don't know if you could do this type of thing because my instinct is always blue and gold because I can't believe there's not just a blue and gold book all the time.
Oh, see, I don't want that from these
I
gentlemen.
don't think that's the right tone for those characters. But I think that you could do a blue and gold book that is revolutionary for those characters right now.
Sure. I just don't want to see a sad booster. And
I'm not saying it has to be. I know
that's
if
what
it's
this is
Tom,
be.
it's going to be sad.
If it's Tom and Mitch, it's going to be sad.
Okay, so a sad one, Cassandra Cain. Give her something to do that's worth a damn.
Okay.
Because she's real sad. Take away her ability to speak again. Let's get some cool sign language like we had in the Aja Fraction Hawkeye run. Yeah, she's a sad girl, so that works for me.
Interesting. I still don't have a really strong answer to this as I look over at my action figures on the aisle just to see if anybody pops out. Man.
Because Starman actually...
I don't... Jack Knight's Starman run is good enough as it is.
No, but that's what I was going to say. Starman actually feels in a lot of ways like the older brother to this type of storytelling. Sure. What that run did for that character.
Well, Elliot, I'm also going to say, like, I'm bouncing against your question where you say, like, a revamp because... It's not really a revamp. It's sort of just it's on its own story.
It's a story that's sort of told out of without the constraints of continuity.
Sure. Because the character I'm going to say I don't want this character to be revamped because this character is great. But I would love to see what Tom and Mitch would do with it. John Constantine.
Ooh, that's a great choice. He can be sad.
I would love to see Tom. What does Tom do with a washed up John Constantine?
Mitch could draw the heck out of a John Constantine.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I would request that they do it with the age-appropriate Constantine. Because again, if you remember...
he'd be like 60.
He would be in his 60s now.
Is Constantine a boomer?
Yes. Constantine is a boomer. Yeah. Because Constantine was always intended by Alan Moore to be a contemporary of Sting. And Sting is a boomer.
Yeah.
So, fun fact. There you go.
Cool.
Why don't you take the next question, Ashley?
Kiefer J. Folsom asks, what is something that you like about DC Comics do better than Marvel? And what's something Marvel does that you think they do better than DC? Is there something you think the two could learn from each other?
Yes. This is a great question. You and I talk about this a lot. Right off the top of my head, I think DC Comics does their events better than Marvel. I think DC Comics shared history is better than Marvel. But weirdly, I think Marvel's better off at one-offs. I think like they're better off.
How do you mean by that?
Well, I think Marvel like solo series are generally better than DC solo series, whereas I think the DC team-up books are better than the Marvel team-up books.
Interesting.
Just blanket statement overall.
Yeah. I think Marvel does a better job at allowing there to be a variety of weird side characters. And letting those runs go on for a long time. Like something like Squirrel Girl or Miss Marvel, which I love.
Or even Deadpool.
Should not have run for as long as they have. And DC, if you're not kind of a member of the Bat family or the Super family, they're not going to let you do that much before they... cut the creative team off at the knees and reboot.
You're getting like 12 issues max.
If you're lucky. Like Black Label's changing that a little bit.
Whereas I think Moon Girl ran for like 2 years.
God, Moon Girl's so freaking good.
It's a really good book.
Yeah, exactly. I think Marvel does that better.
Like Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel is an excellent example of that.
God, I had another thought and it just...
Sorry.
I think DC does mature... dare I say a buzzword, edgy content better.
I agree.
And I think when Marvel tries to do things that are mature with like they brought back Max and I'm sorry. Yeah, like last year it kind of sucked. I would say remember they had that big event, or was it Marvel Nights that they brought back?
It was Marvel Nights. I think they did bring me Max, but I was going to say this. The one exception to your statement here is Garth Ennis's Punisher Max.
No. I'm just, again, blanket statement.
The one exception.
Yeah, but they brought it back last year and it totally didn't work. Whereas like DC, even though they walked back Bat Dick, which I think if you're going to commit to that, freaking commit to it, generally does a better job.
We're so inside baseball. I
know. Well, this is an inside baseball.
I know.
Addressing more mature subject matter consistently with their characters. And I think Marvel does a better job generally speaking, embracing a wider audience. Now, I think DC is making big, exciting moves with DC Kids. Jason and I have said this a lot. The DC Kids line is like the best stuff coming out of DC right now.
Yep.
But a big thing, this is going to get real insider baseball too, from a retail perspective and from a storytelling perspective. If Marvel and DC are not both in a good place, the industry suffers for it.
Yep.
Because they are these loggerheads that are driving so much of the rest of it. So like, forget about production, forget about printing concerns, anything like that. If both of those companies are not healthy, comics are not healthy. And unfortunately, I think we're in a little bit of that right now. Whereas if you look back a couple years to even when DC Rebirth launched, like that was DC and Marvel were like at the height of their powers from a publishing standpoint. And because both of them are owned now by cell phone corporations, sometimes questionable decisions are made. That's been my TED Talk. Thank you for coming. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think you honestly like just hit the nail so well on the head that I just want to move on to the next question.
Okay.
Which is Kylo Benzo at Undrame1 on Twitter, who says, action figure spotlight question. I love this. Favorite Marvel Legends action figures as of now? Ooh, this is a very difficult question. Ashley took an immediate look over to the action figure spotlight. You have others over there, Ashley. Yeah. Ashley is scanning the room right now, looking for Marvel Legends to see.
They finally made a really... I'm trying so hard not to swear, a really, really cool Nightcrawler that I've been waiting like my entire life to get.
Yeah.
That might be my favorite one right now.
I was waiting for you to say the Alpha Flight set.
I was gonna say the Alpha Flight, but like Nightcrawler is so close to my heart. The Alpha Flight set is so cool though because they made all of them, and like Alpha Flight's real goofy, but they look so good.
They have great costume designs.
I'm gonna also furiously make notes so that I can share all of these. Jason is the bigger action figure fan. So
yes, I'm a big action figure collector fan. Marvel Legends has been a solid line for a long, long time.
Oh, can you tell your conspiracy theory about the Thunderbolts?
Oh,
because I love this.
So fun fact, this actually leads into one of my people that I was going to say. So, you know, lately there have been some characters from the great Kurt Busiek, Mark Bagley Thunderbolts run, which if you've never read that comic book, came out in 1996. It's so good. Fabian Nieza.
That'll be in our recommended reading.
Was also one of the writer that picked it up after Kurt Busiek. By the way, I recently became Facebook friends with him, and it like blew my fanboy brain that he accepted. But anyways, enough about that.
Creator of Deadpool.
He is creator of Deadpool. Yes, he's a great writer. He's an amazing writer. Anyways, the Thunderbolts is kind of like that original run. Even the Fabian stuff is so good. And it's kind of like been forgotten. But then I started noticing that certain Thunderbolts characters from that original run have been popping up as like the 6th or 7th character in new Marvel Legends of the Ways.
I gave you one for Christmas.
It started with Songbird, which is the one that you gave me. She popped up in one of the Avengers in-game runs. And I was kind of like, what an interesting choice. And it was always one of those action figures where I said to Ashley, where I was like, oh, you should buy that for me because...
I don't want to buy it for myself.
If they ever get around to making the Thunderbolts, you know, like I'd love to do display. Well, then the next wave, they had Citizen V, who is the leader of the Thunderbolts, which I bought, by the way, which is one of my favorite Marvel Legends of all time because he has an American flag display. His design is so cool. The swashbuckler aspect of Citizen V action figure is so cool. Also, he's secretly Baron Zemo. But then... they released another wave that's coming out in a couple months, which might not come out now. And they put Mach 5 in there, who is the jetpack guy, who's secretly the Beetle, because they're all supervillains, spoilers of Thunderbolts. So I think there's somebody over at Marvel Legends that is secretly stealthy a Thunderbolts fan like me, and I think we will get them all. By the way, a couple years ago, they made a classic Hawkeye figure that was really great, and he will go with my Thunderbolts because Hawkeye goes on to lead the Thunderbolts. But a favorite figure, another favorite one that I always look at from Marvel Legends is I think it was like 10 years ago when Marvel Legends used to be packaged with full-size comic books.
Yes,
and they used
I know
to be
what you mean.
Giant plastic. Oh my God, it was so much waste of plastic.
Yeah, now Disney does that for their figures.
One of my favorite X-Men characters has always been the time traveler Bishop. And Marvel Legends made this very bulky, very big, with his 90s curly hair, with giant guns. He's right up there by Spawn, Ashley. I'm pointing at him right now.
Him. He's huge.
Bishop figure.
He's bigger than the Monitor.
He is one that I have kept so long because to me he looks like such like the Jim Lee drawn Bishop that I will never get rid of that figure. And also Bishop is one of my favorite characters of the X-Men. So that is, it's always a Marvel Legend that draws my eye is that Bishop figure.
Nice.
So that's why I think I have to give him number one.
Great choice.
So, but Marvel Legends, by the way,
great line,
has been on fire lately.
This year, because we got some of the like Toy Fair announcements before the world shut down.
Well, they just put out like one of the best Fantastic Four lines they've ever done.
Yeah, you better believe Jason owns all of this.
Oh my God. Not yet.
Right.
I am too short.
Next question comes from Franco Loves on Twitter, who asked, Superman wearing just glasses to hide his secret identity hasn't aged well. If there's another Superman movie, do you think Superman not having a secret identity is the way to go? Jason has so many thoughts about the glasses. The glasses, by the way, totally work.
Frankie, Booby, Frankie. No. That's it? No.
Cool.
I know I have more. Look, the secret identity is like the underwear. It is aged, but it's part of the character. And I'll be honest with you, I think people are less observant now than they were 20, 30 years ago. I think if you combed your hair differently, you changed your voice, and you like change your entire body posture,
yeah.
I don't think your coworkers would notice at all. I'm being honest with you, man. Like I have literally I have changed my hair. I've cut my hair. I have shaved my beard off. And I have seen friends that I've known for over 10 years, been 5 feet away from them, and they have not recognized me.
I also, if you've never checked it out, the Superman the movie, Christopher Reeve, because he's such a phenomenal actor.
Oh, that clip.
Really does a lot where he changes his posture.
It's the dinner with Lois scene.
Yep. Changes the way he walks, the way he comports himself. He changes his voice a little bit. He muscles up his hair. Rewatch that movie.
But I'll tell you this.
And like, you can make it work.
If I was working on a Superman movie, Warner Brothers, you know where you can find me.
You're Superman 2 with Bizarro.
I would put in one line of dialogue, which is something that John Byrne did when he rebooted Superman in the late 80s. He added this idea that there are no clear pictures of Superman or video footage of Superman.
I like that idea.
Because Superman, whenever he's in public, slightly vibrates.
Like Flash used to do before they stopped doing it on the show.
So he's always slightly out of focus.
I love that.
And to be honest with you, I put that in there once and just boom.
You just have Jimmy be like, God, I can never get a picture of him. And Lois is like, he vibrates.
Look, it's a thing that I agree. Like, I do understand how secret identities are aged and how they're very much a thing of the past, but
we also think that because we've had comics for 100 years.
Well, and also because Marvel movies have become so popular and none of them have secret identities. Yeah. And with the exception of Peter Parker, who's a full face mask, which of course that's a very easy secret identity. But
which, by the way, they undid at the end of the last movie.
Exactly. But I don't think that's the way to go. Like, secret identities have been around for 80 years because they work and because they're interesting. And the one character that it works the best with is Superman.
Yeah.
You get rid of Superman's secret identity, and that character, to me, is less interesting. Clark Kent is such an important part of Superman. Him doing the duality of Clark Kent and Superman is such an important part of that character. Get rid of it, he's less interesting. I just have many thoughts.
Thank you for coming to Jason's TED Talk on Superman.
Thank you for that question, Frank. I hope none of that came off as I don't. By the way, everybody, I don't mean any of these answers as mean. I'm just passionate.
No, and we're just having fun.
Yeah, totally. Loosey goosey, everybody.
At Josephina16 asks, my Corona time is being spent watching GHL from the beginning. Thank you. Currently on book review number 2, Man Without Fear. Wonder how long till I'm all caught up. 12th one today.
You'll probably be there by now. By the time this comes out, I would imagine.
That's true. If you're doing like 12 in a couple days, I mean.
Yeah, Josephine, if you're listening right now and you've just caught up, welcome.
Welcome to the future.
Yes.
It's so funny because about once every 6 months, someone hashtags Bear Without Fear to us trying to get that t-shirt.
I've forgotten that joke.
I don't remember where that joke came from, but I know we sent someone a shirt.
I have completely forgotten that joke.
Because of it.
Yep.
And people are still trying it. So thank you for listening. You're not as tricky as you think you are.
Brandon Bolden at the Nova Nerd on Twitter said, which DC Legacy character would you be interested in writing? I actually would take all of them. I'd love to write all of them. But I mean, the most obvious answer for me is Nightwing.
Tim Drake.
Is Dick
Give
Grayson.
me Tim Drake.
But if I wanted to go a little bit, I mean, they're all so fascinating. That's the reason why I love that universe. It's the reason why I love talking about comics, man. The DC universe, I think, is, I mean, I like the DC universe better than I like the Marvel universe. I think I love so many Marvel characters as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I just think the legacy stuff in the DC
agree.
universe and characters growing up.
You and I love legacy characters.
We love sidekicks.
I mean, I said it before and I'll say it again until DC lets me do it. I've got a great Miss Martian pitch.
Yep.
Just let me do it. Let me add it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Let's move on.
Jake Murphy at Comic Fanboy 616 says, Jason looks straight up like brunette Clark Kent.
See, I thought Clark Kent was brunette, but I guess he has black hair too.
Yeah.
Yep.
You do. Mm-hmm. Adorable. Mm-hmm. Michael Turndrup at Michael Turndrew says, Jason, you look like a young Mark Harmon. Who's Mark Harmon?
He's the lead of NCIS. And he was on the West Wing. He was the Secret Service agent on the West Wing that fell in love with CJ and then was killed.
I don't know who that is.
In season 4. You do.
Do you look like him?
I don't know. I was gonna say, is that a threat?
Most people tell you look like Ben Affleck.
I don't know. Do I look like Mark
Someone
Harmon?
on my Instagram said that you looked like Zachary Levi, and I was like, "You're crazy! Get out of here!"
Look, I wish I had the paychecks of Mark Harmon. So thank you, Michael.
Sure.
All right. Duante the Avenger at dirty_tay says, "Is Wonder Woman bulletproof if she uses her bracelets?"
Yeah, her gauntlets are.
But she can be shot. Sam something at King Hermes 89 on Twitter says, now that Disney owns the X-Men film rights, do you believe that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver will go back to being the children of Magneto in the comics? And what were your feelings about these three characters' relationship with each other? Okay, so I want to acknowledge something that Sam talked about. So about, I don't know, 8 years ago, they did this storyline where they retconned that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were no longer the children of Magneto.
Yeah, it was stupid.
They were Inhumans.
It was stupid.
And that was when the X-Men were owned by 20th Century Fox. And Disney, you could kind of tell...
trying to make Inhumans like Fetch again.
They were trying to make the Inhumans the New Mutants. I'll be honest with you. I think Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are at their most interesting when they are dealing with Magneto. Mm-hmm. I kind of think when they are not dealing with Magneto, they are less interesting.
Yeah. I still also think, and Marvel obviously doesn't agree with me, I think Pietro is way more interesting than Wanda ever dreamed of being.
I agree with you.
Because Pietro at different times has been I actually really love his relationship with the Inhumans. Mm-hmm. I think all of that is really cool.
If you want a great Pietro run,
please
go read X Factor by Peter David. I'm talking about the original team.
Yeah.
It's like they're superheroes.
He did that in the recommended reading.
He did another X Factor run where it was like Jamie Madrox as a detective. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the original one where they were a government team. And it was the first team after the Cyclops team. There is an issue that is from Pietro's perspective. I do not remember what it is. And you learn that the reason why Pietro is an ass is because he thinks everybody's moving slow.
Oh, you told me about this before.
And he gets annoyed by it.
Like when you get annoyed by the person in front of you at Starbucks who will not freaking move.
That's his constant life.
Yeah.
Is that everybody moves slow and he's tired of it.
Also, Pietro in X-Men Evolution is great.
Yeah.
Jason doesn't like his costume, but I think he's great.
No, I don't like his costume. His too big shoulder pads.
I don't think they're going to make them Magneto's children in the movie.
I agree. I don't think they'll do it.
I hope they fix it in the comics, but if you're going to ask me, this is the great thing about being a comics fan, right? And we have a t-shirt that says this in the TeePublic store. You make your own continuity.
Yeah.
In my brain, they never stopped being Magneto's children. They are Magneto's children. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Come again.
I think Ashley ended the question. So let's go on to the next one.
At Armando El Ramir 2 says, if you could watch any one movie, live action or animated, based on comics on repeat for 24 hours, what movie would it be?
These are tough as well because I don't think there's any movie that you wouldn't get tired of. Do you have one that pops out?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, it's a good choice.
Just because...
That's a good choice.
I got to do one of the junkets for it. I know a little bit about how it was made. Jason and I have the art book. We're very interested in the behind the scenes of it. So I think that's one of the movies that you could watch and discover something new. You could be like, okay, now I'm just watching Spider-Ham. Now I'm just watching the animation tracking. Now I'm just watching this or that aspect. And I think you could get a lot out of it because that movie is so layered. Mm-hmm. So that's like my first off the top of my head choice, but I'm just like, I don't know, man, Winter Soldier's pretty good. Wonder Woman's pretty great.
I don't know. See, I think you just get so tired of some of the Marvel movies. I really do. On like by the time you hit like the sixth viewing, I think you get so burned out.
I mean, you're going to watch
movies.
this movie 12 times in 24 hours.
You know, one that I think I could get through
What?
is actually Kingsman: The Secret Service, the first Kingsman movie, because I like that movie a lot.
I mean, that's pretty loose to say it's based on a comic. But
It's based on
You're
Kingsman
right.
comic.
You're absolutely right.
The first Kingsman movie and
not Road to Perdition, Jason?
the
Not
first,
History of Violence?
The first Kingsman movie
You're right.
and the Kingsman Secret Service
Yep.
miniseries is actually pretty damn close
Yeah,
to each other.
okay.
There are changes of
I
character
know.
names.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
But that movie is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice update of James Bond. And I think there's enough character stuff in it that doesn't get too deep that you would actually...
Plus, the fights are cool.
You wouldn't get tired of it on repeat viewings. That's the problem, is all the serious dramatic stuff, you get tired of it by the time you saw it the seventh time. And that's why I think your answer is so good, because it being an animated film, I think you notice new animations in there. I don't know. I think I could get through Kingsman. I think I would still like Kingsman by the end of that.
Cool.
So yeah, there you go.
Last question comes from @PsychoRed, who says, what is the most interesting thing you've learned doing 300 plus episodes of Geek History Lesson?
Psycho Red, I think this is a great, excellent question. I see Psycho Red actually respond to a lot of our stuff.
Yeah,
so,
Psycho Red is lovely.
I think you're great. Thank you for this. You know, the thing, I've heard this for years, and it took until Geek History Lesson to do Geek History Lesson that I believed it. I do believe, and this is the biggest thing I've learned from doing 300 episodes of Geek History Lesson, there are no bad characters.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are bad writers, because...
Well, Jason and I have done, and we try to remain positive, we have done many Geek History Lessons on many characters
that we hate.
We do not care for.
Yeah.
And we try to do our best job and discover what's interesting about them.
Yeah, and that's the thing I've learned. That's the thing I've learned about doing this podcast, is that there are a lot of characters that I went into the research for the lesson like being like, oh, this is going to be rough. And then by the time I taught the lesson to Ashley, I actually gained an affination for that character. Is that
Affinity.
Affinity, excuse me. I don't know. Affination. What the hell was I doing there?
We've been stuck inside for a long time, Sam. Bear with us.
So, I mean, I think that's, for me, that's the most interesting thing. I think every character, no matter how stupid you think they are, has value. Ashley, what do you think you've learned after 300 episodes of this?
I have become desensitized to the sound of my own voice in a recording, which is really nice. When I first heard myself, I thought it was horrifying. That's only half a joke. I think I've learned a little more to question an opinion and not just to write stuff off. I'm a kind of person who likes to be like, well, it sucks, or it's trash, or it's garbage, or it's great, and it's wonderful, and it's perfect, and not really dive deep on them. And that's something that you challenge me on a lot. And I think that that's also shifted my view of just art and creative process in general. And that's something I super, super appreciate.
Yeah.
I've also learned that Jason's way louder than me because I always have to turn up my microphone.
Okay. All right.
And if you are not a tech savvy person, you should just shut up and let the person who is do what they're good at and be thankful for it. That's another thing I've learned.
Oh, it's interesting. It's also interesting that I think the other thing, and this is another, like, mine are both kind of like weird life lessons.
Sure.
And I think this applies, and this is definitely something I learned from Geek History Lesson, because I can tell what episodes of our podcast I like and what other episodes of our podcast I don't like based on how much fun did I have recording it. Because if I don't have fun recording it, then I'm like, ooh, this wasn't a good episode.
Yeah.
But if we have a blast, like if we're dying at the end of it, like I know that is like a peak perfect episode. And to be honest with you, I would say that for everything in life. If you don't end it being like, oh my God, that was so much fun, that was so much great, then I don't know if that's something you should keep doing.
If it's worth doing.
If it's worth doing, yeah.
The other thing that I think I learned is that batching creative content is key.
Oh yeah.
If we had to record this every week, we would have stopped
crazy.
ages ago and I would have passed away.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
That's a great question, Psycho Red. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody that gave us questions. So thank you so much on Patreon, on Twitter, on Facebook. You guys were great. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Ashley, I like this one. We went a little bit longer. We answered all the questions we had.
We did. We had a lot more questions this time.
Well, we didn't answer all the questions. There were someone there. I will say first, if you gave us a question and you did not hear it on here, I just want to say we cut some that were repetitive.
We had a lot of repeats.
We did have a lot of questions where people were like, "How would you combine Marvel and DC?" That was a very popular question.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
So we answered it once. We answered it last week, and there you go.
Yeah, and if we didn't get to yours, also we only have so much time. Keep asking questions. You'll get on here.
Well,
Don't worry about it.
You know what? I'll tell you what. Go to our Twitter or go to our Facebook right now if you're listening to this, and tell us did you enjoy the mailbag episodes? And if you did, please use the hashtag, even on Facebook, hashtag GHL mailbag. Tell us what you thought about these. Do you think they were boring? Do you think they were long? We were like, this is exactly what I needed to get me through the quarantine? Great. But we want to know. Because
we're going to do a little decompress and figure out if we're going to do more.
Yeah, we had been talking about, I had this idea for a while, and I kept pitching it to Ashley that I thought maybe we should try a mailbag episode. We've been going for 6 years now. Let's see.
Yeah.
And this is the grand experiment, guys. We thought that this might help you guys, give you a little bit of light in the darkness out there in case you're feeling kind of stressed and anxiety, you're worried about your loved ones, because we all are. And, and hopefully this makes you a little bit happier. And if so, you know what? Maybe we'll do this once a quarter.
The other thing that I learned doing Geek History Lesson is that Jason is a good enough editor that we don't have to turn the air conditioning off in the summer. Because that took us literally years.
You can hear it if you're listening to it. I just up the noise filter a little bit more. So there you go. Okay, everybody. Don't forget to follow this podcast on GHL Podcast on Twitter if you want to see all these pictures of all the stuff we were talking about.
Yeah.
And at Facebook, where, Ashley?
Facebook.com/Geek History Lesson.
Yes. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Jawin. That's JAWIIN. I've been sharing action figures for my Superman collection. If you want to see that, I love action figures, a big thing. Ashley is over on Instagram and Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson. She's been doing live streams every single day.
Yep.
Even though I'm like, why so many live streams? And she's like, you don't tell me what to do. And I'm like, but I want to. And she's like, don't you dare. I'm going to turn the live stream on right now. And I'm like, no, don't let the public see my hideousness. No. Or that I look like a young Mark Harmon. I don't know if I don't think I do. I like Mark Harmon. I think he's a good actor.
Mark Harmon, if you're listening to this podcast.
He is.
Please reach out. We'd love to have you on.
Sure. He voiced Superman in something. I can't remember which animated film.
I would extra love to have him on.
God, which one was it? I know I could do it. I think he voiced Superman in Crisis on Two Earths.
Cool.
I think that's the one he voiced Superman in.
The very first animated movie?
No, that is not the first.
I thought that was the first one.
No, it is Superman Doomsday.
Oh, yeah. We watched that one.
Crisis on Two Earths is a ways down the line.
Whatever.
But it's one of the better ones.
Whatever.
So there you go. Thank you so much for listening. Tell us what you think about this mailbag episode. This has been Geek History Lesson. I am Jason Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And this podcast is over.
Bye.